Just stop it. The run-of-the-mill, cheesy, humdrum bullshit status quo just tires me out. What fascinates me are the industry disruptors, the superhuman frontiersmen or women who go through hell to achieve their goals. Join me as we meet and learn from those mavericks, rebels, and business leaders that aren't afraid to piss off the establishment in order to make radical change for good. Sponsored by Johto PR, the disruptive anti-PR firm that murders your competition with cinder blocks and cyanide. This is Disruption Interruption. Welcome back, everybody, to Disruption Interruption. I'm your host, KJ, and we're here today to talk to another industry leader that has steered off the lame, tired path of the status quo. Here's the biggest challenge every CEO is secretly facing. I don't know if they're secretly facing it anymore, but we are constantly chasing or have been chasing specialists and building teams of deep experts. But that model is rapidly being replaced by artificial intelligence. The structure of professional work, talent development, and enterprise growth is being rewritten. Our guest today is building the solutions in his company that prove this shift. He's not talking about abstract AI tools. His firm is the digital architect creating high-velocity, enterprise-grade AI solutions used by giants like Google, Paramount, and the NHS. He believes the future of work isn't about deep specialists only, it's about competent generalists who know how to manage and orchestrate specialized AI agents. We're going to dive into what it takes for executives to disrupt their own talent strategy before the market does it for them. Please welcome the CTO at Beyond, Cassiano Surek.
Thank you for having me, KJ. Lovely to spend time with you and with your lovely audience as well.
Thank you very much. Well, we first spoke to you several months ago or a few months ago, and there's been a lot of changes even since we spoke to you. So we have a lot to unpack today. We're gonna go do as much as we can, but I'm sure our audience will want to reach out to you after that and ask you even more questions. Before we get into the state of the workforce today and, the workplace and, work and AI and so forth, everyone in our audience loves to hear from innovators, like what has driven them personally towards innovation. For you as a CTO, what's driven you towards innovative disruption?
One word, curiosity, because the world that we live in evolves so fast, and in order for you to be motivated, in order for you to find the solutions, you need to have that latent curiosity that drives you forward. And it doesn't mean that you're always going to be successful, right? But that curiosity will lead you into paths or down paths that are revealing, other times more so than less so, right? But then you're able to take all of that in and apply those learnings and innovate in a vast spectrum of areas.
I love that you said that. There are several other innovators on this podcast that have mentioned curiosity. So you have a common denominator with these guys. And I loved that you were very real because, listen, that curiosity doesn't always pay off. It leads you to dead ends, but you go back and you're curious to find the others where you do have the payoffs, right?
Yeah, precisely. Yeah, I think a success is made of many almost quasi successes, right? So not necessarily failures, but that compounds over time, right? And with those learnings, then you navigate differently, right? You know where to go more, but you're always exploring, right? It's an endless journey of exploration.
Well, you couldn't have said it better because now we're in an era where the endless journey of exploration seems to be even more endless, doesn't it? Let's talk about talent and professional work and talent development with AI. What's been the status quo?
The status quo has been established maybe a decade or so ago, in which people would develop these solutions with a more segmented stack. And this stack, when we talk about stack, we talk about the underlying data, infrastructure, the back end, which processes all that information, and the front end that delivers the information to users, to customers. And so this has been very well defined over time, so much so that I have a background in software engineering and systems architecture. And so there came a point in my career that I had to pick a direction. So whether I was going more back-end, more systems architecture, deeper into the stack, or I would go more of a front-end side, more presentation and style sheets and all of that area. I chose to stay in the back-end and deeper into the stack, right? So from my own experience, I had to make a choice. The interesting thing is that people now don't necessarily need to make that choice anymore
And what do you mean
because
by that? Why don't they have to make that choice anymore?
back then you had to develop very deep expertise in that framework, in that language that you were developing with. And yeah, you would then hire people because they were specialists in specific areas. These days, you have many tools that you can then have in your toolkit that will allow you to then be a specialist whenever it's needed in that language, or and then tackle those problems that are more back-end centric, more calculation heavy, but also tackle those that have to do with how do you present information to people. So you can cross both of those areas without being just attached to one deep specialism. So it's a wonderful time to be alive because people can get creative, they can be entrepreneurial, they can have an idea today, and in a week's time they can have a prototype to validate that idea.
Yeah, I love that you have the glass half full and you're talking about that because it is more opportunity today, right? In the past, what you're talking about is that you had to sort of sacrifice. Maybe you liked both lanes, but you really had to sacrifice one in order to get real deep knowledge in something. Whereas today, you can be a very competent generalist. And I don't even know if generalist maybe is the right term, but you can be competent in more skill sets than just one.
Yeah, that is correct. But an interesting shift is also, of course, I'm talking more on the engineering world here, which I have more contact with, but
Of
this would
course.
apply across industries, is that what we're seeing is the rise of that competent generalist, but we also see the rise of those engineers that were very deep into their specialism. They are ascending to a position in which they actually can create more, can produce more, can
Mm,
cover other areas, right? And then that entrepreneurial model then comes in, sets in. This is the shift that happens is that whomever can then rise from their deep specialism and start to use these tools, they are going to still have that knowledge from their specialism that's going to help them inevitably, right? But they're going to do a lot more without them, just being stranded in one particular lane.
yeah, that's very true. And I'm sure their depth and breadth of understanding in their specialty helps them become a
Mhm.
more competent generalist. How has this personally helped you?
Well, I was very deep into code, in Linux and Unix, back in the day with NCC. And for the engineers and programmers out there, you'll know all of those. But those are programming languages of yesteryear. And for me, it helped because I was an engineer at one point, became a director, well, actually a manager before, then a director, and then a CTO. And then as you ascend those levels, you lose touch with actually coding, which is something that us problem solvers, engineers, we like to do. We like to solve problems. And
Yeah.
when you get to a CTO position, depending on the type of company, these problems sometimes are much more operational or human resource related. So this then gave me the opportunity to get back into actually building things, not only
So
asking
cool.
people to build and then waiting 6 weeks or however long it takes then to then see the result. Now I can instruct tools to create things. And this given, I think for many people like me, CTOs that have not coded for some time, it's like a renaissance of being able to create things.
Yeah, that's great. That is a renaissance. It's resurgence, right?
Hmm.
What have you noticed as far as this whole competent generalist evolution that's happening? What have you noticed in terms of industries that are early adopters of this and how it's changing particular industries and the landscape and the economy? What have you seen?
Yeah, what I see is that the team makeup is the first one that comes to mind because when you were developing a solution in the past, you had that team makeup. now this team makeup is different. And some people will then reword that full stack engineering team of the past as AI native teams. And this means that people coming in don't come in with that thinking that they would only work in a specific part of that solution. Now they're going to work across the solution with a toolkit then that will help them achieve a lot more. And this means different things in different industries. There are industries that will adopt this more rapidly, especially the industries that deal with less risk. Right? If you look at financial services, insurance,
Healthcare, those are more risky. Yes.
that's it.
Not gonna.
So if they are more risk averse, then it will take a little longer for them to get on board, but it will happen with them as well. It will happen with them as well. So teams are changing from, that very specialized lane to more of an amalgamation of competent people that can collaborate and instruct. Another interesting thing to point out is that those very large structures of hierarchy, they are being contracted quite dramatically, right? Because you no longer need then lots of middlemen, if you will, to do very specific tasks, right? You need someone with a good idea and some product knowledge, right? Because bringing product into the thinking is quite important. When you're building something, you're building a product, there is a target audience, there is a go-to-market. So you bring that thinking as well. And these engineers or these people that are part of this new team are no longer just coders. They are product engineers at times, they are coders at times. So they are more versatile than as these solutions then evolve.
So you have this whole hierarchy of this org board that's being contracted quite significantly.
That's it. Yeah, so we'll see that. I think in the future we'll see companies that maybe more like the Dutch format in which you have the CEO talking to the janitor and that's absolutely fine. Everybody then collaborates together. So you'll see flatter structures as opposed to those very hierarchical with 10 levels of ascension for people to get to. I think we'll get to see more flat structured companies in the future.
That's interesting. That's very interesting. What other changes have you noticed? You guys worked with some really big companies. What have you noticed, and how is this having an impact on their output?
Yeah, we've noticed that in the companies that we work with, there are various degrees of adoption of AI. And interestingly, companies that are more agile, they are smaller, then they will move faster, they will be able to adopt then technology and AI into their processes or enabling different experiences or different solutions. But what we saw in some of our clients was that, they were very cautious about adopting AI, right, at first. And this, I'm talking last year. So, of course, generative AI was out there. Of course, machine learning models have been very popular and still are very popular to this day. But now what we're seeing is these enterprises as well adopting these tools that just support and substantiate what I was talking about, these generalist teams. So now we're seeing more of that. So I think that tip point of, well, this is too risky for me. And now, okay, well, it's still risky, but I'd better use it. Otherwise, I'm going to be behind the curve. I think this is what we're experiencing now.
Yes. Well, this whole it has a lot of economic implications. It like changes HR, it changes hiring, it changes the structure and layout of organizations, the output, and even the productivity. Do you, what else do you see? What else is happening that, you said there were things that, even new things that, have come out because the iteration is so fast today. What else is on top of this that we're not aware of yet?
Yeah, so if you think about these generalist teams, then you get to see them more. And I think for people adapting to the workforce, younger or less young, right, and having those concepts understood, that they're going to have to be more generalist, more of a generalist, but have a great command of AI tooling, right? So this is putting that slightly to the side. What we've been seeing now is the rise of agentic commerce, right? And this is helped by these generalist teams, because if you look at e-commerce as it is now, well, I'm sure, KJ, you bought many wonderful things over your lifetime.
Of course.
Probably much better choices than mine, right? But
I've had some real duds, I'll tell you.
in the future, KJ, maybe if you're into running and you want those trainers that are specific and are going to be only available at a specific time, you may be in bed and an agent may buy that for you on your
Mm,
behalf, right? And this changes things dramatically, right, from the way that we operate now. And
wow.
those teams, those generalist teams, are going to be part of building all of this out around agentic commerce. But one question for you: would you have your personal agent to do things for you?
Of course, if I trained it very well.
Yeah, well,
I mean,
this
my
is the
time is
thing.
money. So how can I save time so that I could
Mhm.
have a better quality of life? Now, of course, if I trained it very well and it understood things for me and, it had the guardrails
Mhm.
and the security, of course I would.
Yeah, so agentic commerce, then, so you're a great candidate to use your personal agents to buy those trainers at 3 a.m. whilst you are in a lovely sleep there. So would I, right? I take as much as I could offload to agents as long as they have the right knowledge, they have the right guardrails, they don't break the bank, right? Because
Of
running
course, that's
agents
part of
as
the
well.
guardrails, right? Yeah.
Don't break the bank. So yeah, this is a very important shift that I think it's great for us to discuss, because those teams are going to be part of building all of that out. But this is going to disrupt, and it's disrupting already, a massive chain from production all the way down to then consumption. And we're talking about, we are at a stage in which you cannot yet delegate an agent to buy things for you,
Right.
but we're getting there quick.
That was my next question. Like realistically, how far along do you think it is from that happening?
I think that Santa will be able to buy presents for everybody than using its own personal agent
So you
whilst
think
he
by
is in bed.
Christmas? Are you thinking in about 9 months? Yeah.
Indeed. I think the
Wow.
evolution is going so fast. And yeah, we've seen, of course, Google um, releasing protocols that help with communication between agents. They help with payment processing as well, which is a very important part of being able to delegate an agent to buy something for you. So we are at the point of the curve in which merchants are confused. Shops are confused as to how to prepare themselves for this future in which it's no longer going to be guided by the emotion, or it's going to less so be guided by the brand, but it's going to be more algorithmically defined.
Well,
Right?
I think
So
even algorithmically, you can put the brand and the emotion in there. I mean, who's
yes,
programming the algorithms? Like this changes so many things, Cassiano. I
mhm.
mean, marketing, branding, how to get emotion into the algorithms. I see a wealth of changes that would be coming throughout this and the trickle-down effect for many industries.
Yeah. And I see so my angle for how do you then transfer that brand loyalty, the emotion, and in my view, I think that's going to be about personalization, because you're going to get attached to an agent and by consequence the merchant that know who you like.
Yeah,
They can predict, they can see that, well, no, if Cass has gone out surfing here in Lisbon, and he's very likely then to buy wax, right, for his surfboard,
right.
or buy XYZ. So I think the emotion and the connection is going to be transferred from that visual element or that emotion to my emotion is that this thing knows me so well, and it can connect to the various merchants that can then provide all of those tastes that it's going to have that transfer.
I think that's incredible. You could even get into impact buying as well if you really want to support local businesses, if they are, those are going more online rather than the big boxes. I mean, there's much good that you could do with this, I would imagine.
True, but then yeah, we would need to get the local folks to have their own merchant agents
That's
as well, so
right.
they could sell.
That's right. And, that's not so far off, right? It could happen.
Absolutely. And much of this is going to be created by those teams that we touched on at the top of the convo here, right? Because with the tooling that exists, then building agents is becoming easier and easier. That said, building agents that are production ready and are secure and are performant still requires some level of depth and specialism for us to happen. So this is why we are at that point in which, yes, the protocols are in place. There's a lot of noise that's being made. I think at the retail conference in New York earlier in the year, there are lots of people talking about agentic commerce, and people believe that that's going to be the future, myself included. But all of those agents will have to be built. Then those generalist teams are going to come in to help do exactly that.
I think it's going to make more competent generalists, but even more competent specialists.
Possibly, yeah. That's an interesting angle.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
But I would bring yet another angle. I think we need to get people that are more fulfilled in their lives and their professional lives. Because when you're stuck in doing one thing only and you're there for 5 or 10 years, you become renowned for that. You become a deep specialist in that. But I would bet that those folks would like to try out some other things as well and
Yeah, they
explore a
would.
little bit of other areas. And with the tooling that we have now, then they will be able to do exactly that.
It's fantastic. That really is fantastic. I love it. So tell me a little bit about Beyond and what do you guys do?
So Beyond is a technology consultancy. Around for 20 years. Recently, we were acquired by Codia, the biggest GCP partner in Europe. But Beyond, we have been building experiences, building solutions for clients. Google is one of our clients. Snapchat is another client. And interestingly, when I joined Beyond, I thought to myself, why are Google hiring external companies to do things? Because I thought, no, Google so almighty. But then, well,
They do.
yes, it dawned on me that now, as any other company there, you need to keep focus on what you do best.
There
And
you
other
go.
things, then you can bring specialists, you can bring great people to do all sorts of things. And that's why they brought us as well, to build many of their solutions, so e-learning solutions, marketing platforms for them. And we've been building a number of those things over the course of time. But with the agentic commerce that we were just talking about, that's an area that we're going deep now, because we believe that this is the present and it will be increasingly part of our future. So much so that, we have a specialized team of people that just focused on understanding, how do we go about enriching a product catalog to work with agents? Because in the e-commerce experience, it's a kind of a two-dimensional data set. When you
Yeah.
then bring agents in, they need to understand a much bigger set of things, a context. And those dimensions then increase quite dramatically. I wouldn't even say it's 4D, it's probably
It's
um,
multi-dimensional, isn't it?
that,
Yes.
that's it. So there's this key aspect that we work on is, okay, so firstly, what's the quality of a product catalog? Right? Does it have all the parameters or the attributes that make it a good starting product catalog? If not, then naturally we'll help then clients evolve from that and refine. But then, the next step is, okay, how do we make it rich? Just so that agents can then, instead of just, well, give me a tent for my trip with my kids for my camping trip on the weekend, you can say, well, I'm going out with my kids on a camping trip in the central Portugal, if you will. What is it all that I need?
Right,
Right?
right. And where can I get the best, right? The fastest and in a budget
That's
that I
it.
really like. And of course, I would like to frequent some of these shops that I really want to flow business to. I mean I'm listening here and I'm like the possibilities are endless. And when I have my own AI agent that does my shopping for me, I'm always going to think of you, Cass. I might even name him Cass.
There you go. I'm biased, but it's a lovely name.
Cass, how do people get a hold of you? I'm sure people have questions. They want to talk to you. What about this? What about that?
Yes, I have my email, cass@surek.co.uk, and that's the email for people to get a hold of me. So CASS at surek.co.uk. And well, of course, I welcome people to explore new ideas about this and about other AI related topics. But there's one additional angle of agents that I would like to bring to this conversation here before we
Please.
wrap up. But you asked me what surprised me. So here I am surprised.
Surprise
Right?
me.
we think about the agentic commerce as being, of course, that change that's going to disrupt a whole industry, a whole chain, and people are going to change their ways of consuming. Now, sometimes we need to go much narrower. An interesting use case of agents actually for moms. And so if you look at moms, they have to buy all sorts of things.
Do. They have to make a lot of decisions all day long.
They need agents as well. Right?
Do. Boy,
So
my mom would have loved an agent, a few agents.
this is good because then there's an answer for that, right? And this is a project that I have been developing with my wife because we have two kids and she's overwhelmed with all sorts of things. So yeah, so we developed an agent for precisely that, to help moms, to help actually lighten their mental load. They have to do all sorts of wonderful things, and that agent will help them then have more time for agentic shopping.
Amazing. Look at you.
People can find out more about that in supermay.ai. And it's Super May, as in the May name in the US, but in Portugal, in Portuguese, is Super Mãe. So mãe is mother.
Oh, right? Super mom. I love this. This is great. Well, you have a huge target audience with that, don't you?
Yes, and I can see some benefits with my wife already, right? She's calmer, she's not having to think about, okay, well, Max has football, so I need to prep his kit. So this agent then reminds her of doing all of those things that I know that moms have all over their heads, taking a lot of mental space. So yeah, let's delegate that to
when they have to go buy things, they have to do research to make sure it's safe and it's like going to be nutritional or whatever for the children. And there's a lot that AI agents could do.
That's it. See, I told you that we would need 2 or 3 or 4 episodes to cover a lot, but gladly we were able to cover a good spectrum of things, right? Yeah. How teams are going to need to be for the future, very generalist, capable generalists with the ability to then tap into the AI that they need at that time. These teams will help us then get into the agentic commerce era, which is here now and will increasingly evolve. But also moms, they're going to have to buy stuff with agentic commerce. So we need to give them some time by some specialized agents.
Changing the face of the earth and marketing and how these companies reach these moms. And yes, amazing. I wish I could have gotten an AI agent or 2 for my mom when she was around.
Well, there you go. We can make it happen. Let's talk.
Okay, let's do it. Cass, what do you do on your copious free time besides make super moms?
I've always been a techie, right? And I've always been a musician, all right? So I'm from Brazil originally, so born and raised in Brazil, then spent a good 15 years in the UK, these days based out in Lisbon. And throughout all of this journey, I never lost touch with music, technology, and the other passion is surfing.
Portugal I knew it, because you mentioned that.
It's an awesome place to surf. Gladly, I don't surf on the very big waves up in Nazaré, because I think I would have to die and be born again to have the courage and the stamina and the craziness to go down 30 feet high waves, right? I surf smaller ones, but Portugal is very good for that, right? Lifestyle, surfing, and doing gigs on the weekends, because of course there's a lot of work that we need to do to evolve, to disrupt, but we also need to have creative expression. We need to decompress, right? And the way that I do that with music and with surfing.
That's fantastic. Well, you're a guy after my own heart. I grew up in a surfing community, so there you go.
That resonates.
A lot of free spirits that way. Yes. It's great. Well, I love what you guys are doing over at Beyond. I love what you're doing, making super moms. Thank you very much for that. If you had to leave our audience with food for thought, what is something that you would tell them?
I would tell them to understand how parts of what they do today could be done by agents and get ahead of that, right? And I mean, just very generally, I don't mean it only in your day job from 9 to 5. I think about this very generally. So, and a good example is the agentic commerce there. So I could then ask an agent to help me buy things, or I could ask an agent to help me book holidays. And so what are all of those things that agents could do for you? Find out if they are available, right? If they're not, I'll help you find them. If they're not, and if they don't exist, let's build them together.
That's awesome. Thanks very much.
Pleasure spending time with you, KJ.
That's a wrap, everyone. If you learned something today, I know you did, and you're still thinking and thinking and thinking, go tell someone about this podcast. Tell people to go disrupt their markets with some AI agents. And thanks for listening again to Disruption Interruption, where we transform lives, we change consumer behavior, we alter economics, and we never accept the status quo. Ciao for now.
Because we live in a highly litigious society, with America being one of the top litigious countries in the world, here's our legal disclaimer. This information is not intended to be a substitute for professional public relations or legal advice. Do not disregard seeking professional legal, healthcare, or financial advice, or delay seeking professional PR or legal advice because of something you have heard here. Contact an attorney to obtain advice on any particular legal situation or problem. Use of this podcast or our website or any of its social media or email links do not create an agency-client relationship between Johto PR and the user.